right, Justice Clarence Thomas writing today that abortion is an act, quote, rife with the potential for eugenic manipulation. Let's bring in Fox News contributor Richard Fowler and the president of Live Action, Lila Rose, to discuss. Welcome to you both.
Good to see you, Shannon.
Okay, so I want to read a little bit more of this back and forth from the footnotes between Justice Thomas and Justice Ginsburg. Justice Thomas saying this: given the potential for abortion to become a tool of eugenic manipulation, the court will soon need to confront the constitutionality of laws like Indiana's. And, you know, Richard, I read this thing. He was on pages and pages on the history of eugenics and how birth control and abortion were aimed at eradicating people who were viewed as unfit or should have never been born. I mean, it's clear how he feels about this issue. And if they take a case, as we think next term they will, it's going to end up putting a decision in June of 2020, right in the middle of a presidential election.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And I think what we saw today was that there is some hesitation on this court to take up this Roe versus Wade case, and we'll have to see what happens. But I think what we have to do, what we have to affirm, and what we saw Ruth Bader Ginsburg did in those footnotes, is she reaffirmed a woman's constitutional right to have full control of her body and to equalize her level of citizenship, which I think is very, very important. Because beyond just giving somebody a right to have an abortion, what Roe versus Wade does is it codifies a woman being the same level of citizenship as a man, right? Because I have full control of my body. There's no part of my body that the government controls. For a woman, if you overturn Roe v. Wade, there'll be one part of the body they have no control over, which makes them less of a citizen.
Well, let me read you a little bit of what she had to say in her, her footnote as well, directly addressing Justice Thomas. She said, "A woman who exercises her constitutionally protected right to terminate a pregnancy is not a, quote, mother." Lila, she was not happy about the use of that word.
Yes, and I think it goes to show just the utter blindness coming from abortion advocates here. The reality is that she is a mother and there is a human life there. And yes, we have bodily rights just like men, but men can't use their body to harm or inflict harm on somebody else's body. And women don't have that right either. I don't have the right to harm a body inside my body that's unique and individual, another human life. And look, I think Justice Clarence Thomas's comments are really powerful and important to pay attention to, because he's saying that abortion, the history of abortion here, the history of Planned Parenthood here has to do with eugenics. I mean, the fact that the #1 killer of blacks today is abortion. It is higher than the combined top 15 reasons that blacks die today in America, according to the CDC, and abortion beats out all of them. The black abortion rate is 3 to 5 times higher than it is among whites. This is the history of a long legacy of targeting blacks in the womb when they are the most vulnerable, and that's what Justice Thomas is concerned about. And to see the blindness from Justice Ginsburg, not even acknowledging this horrific reality and continuing to come up with this fake constitutional right, which was an unjust decision by by the justices in Roe v. Wade, is really sad to see coming from a woman.
Herein lies the problem, I think. So there is a vulnerability that exists for African-American young people and African-American children, but that vulnerability exists when they're out the womb as well. Will you work with Democrats to ensure that these mothers have access to prenatal care? Will you work with educators to make sure that there's access to early childhood public education? This is the fight that we talk about each and every day. The people that voted for the heartbeat bill in Mississippi voted against expanding Medicaid for poor women and for poor mothers.
Well,
they voted against expanding early childhood public education.
This raises an interesting question because after the bill passed in Alabama just a couple of weeks ago, that was really one of the toughest pro-life bills in the country. It was interesting that the next week there was a headline that said Alabama set records for the number of foster parents who were adopting children. But Lila, that's always going to be part of the conversation, is if you are pro-life, are you willing to take the next step when these children come and maybe they aren't wanted or don't have support?
And I would return the question to Richard. I mean, it sounds like, Richard, you agree that abortion is discriminating against, and it's disproportionately targeting
No, I think society discriminates against African Americans, not abortion.
But abortion's a lethal tool of discrimination, as it is against blacks,
I think not having access to
girls.
health care
Girls
is
are
discrimination.
disproportionately targeted
I think not
for
having
abortion
access
in the
to
womb
public
internationally.
education is discrimination.
Let me ask you, but let's address those. But why are we allowing the killing of these
we
children
can't
in the
address
womb?
those, but herein lies the problem.
Afterwards.
But herein lies the problem.
Let me stop you both. Let me stop you both because nobody's going to get anything.
My understanding is you're in support of abortion.
Okay, but nobody's going to get. Wait, guys. No one is going to be able to hear from either one of you. So we got to stop you just a second. Let me ask you both to stop for a second. Do you think on this question of an abortion, which the Supreme Court did not take up today, is this Indiana law which bans abortions on the basis of race, of gender, or disability? Richard, do you have a problem with a prohibition on those three things?
Listen, I believe that it is between a woman and a doctor to make those decisions.
Okay, so even race or gender or disability is okay for you?
I believe that it's between a woman and her doctor to make the determination on how they choose and how.
What determination?
Right, that's their decision and how they choose to do that. But let's be very clear. Allow me to be very clear. What we've seen over and over and over again, all across this country, in places like Mississippi, in places like Alabama, in places like Georgia, while these lawmakers pass heartbeat bills, they still have high infant mortality rates, right? And they're doing nothing to solve that. They're not providing access to affordable health care. They're not providing access to early childhood. They're
all right, let me stop you there so we can give a final word to Lila. Let's bring in Lila.
They're cutting free breakfast. We can go on and on with all the cuts to poor children.
I find it absolutely stunning to hear from people like Senator Kamala Harris and others, to hear that the solution is more abortion through all 9 months for any reason, which is what every single Democratic candidate wants. My understanding is, Richard, you're in support of abortion on demand for any reason. These are killing children. If we care about children before and after birth, we should protect their right to exist, their right to live. I do not support killing children after birth. I hope you don't either.
Lila.
And I don't support killing them before birth. And that's what we should all be agreeing on.
We got to leave it there.
Much like the Supreme Court and her doctor.
I think that just like Justice Thomas and Justice Ginsburg, you two are not going to agree on this tonight. So we'll leave it there. But this is most certainly going to be, it's going to be through the court in the next term or so, and we'll watch it like a hawk. Richard and Lila, thank you both.
Good to see you, Shannon.